Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today's discussion, I want to talk about the conversation I feel like you must have with yourself before you decide to get into a serious relationship with someone, before you decide to become engaged to someone, before you decide to get married to someone. I feel like there's a serious conversation that you should have with yourself. Now, a lot of what I'm going to share with you comes from hours and hours and hours and hours of, coaching sessions that I've done over the years. And so I'm just kind of really sharing information with you information that I've learned, knowledge that I have been able to capture over these years. That's the information and the knowledge that I'm going to be sharing with you today. It is something that I don't think a lot of people think about, and if they do think about it, I think sometimes the seriousness of it is sometimes overlooked because people get caught up in a lot of infatuation. The whole idea of being in love or moving in together or being in a serious relationship together. And there are a lot of things that you have to consider, a lot of things that you have to take seriously if you're going to put yourself in a situation where you're telling yourself that you're going to be 100% committed to someone. So, I'm going to do a part two to this, which is, the conversation that you have to have with the person. But for part one, we're going to look at the conversation that you have to have with yourself before you get married to someone, or before you know, propose to someone, or you're wanting someone to propose to you, and or just before you get into a serious relationship, male or female, right? Before you get into a serious relationship. So one of the things that you have to consider before you get into any one of those type of serious relationships is first you have to ask yourself, is this what you really want to do, right? Is this something that you really want to do? And so you don't make a decision because you feel like you might disappoint someone. And so you rush into something because you feel like, well, I have been, let's call it dating, right? So I've been dating this person for X amount of time. And so, I am in some way feeling pressured to become more committed, or the person is giving you either verbal or nonverbal signs, symbols, that they are perhaps ready for you to kind of announce that you are ready to take things more seriously, right? But you can't do it simply because it's what the other person wants. Because there are two people in this equation, right? So you can't do it because it's what the other person wants. It's yes, you have to take the other person into consideration. And I don't think you should just leave anyone just hanging out there for years or whatever with no commitment whatsoever. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, look, is this something that I am ready to do? I won't say perhaps you could be absolutely ready. I think you can get to the point where you can be absolutely ready. Sometimes you can get to the point where you could say, well, yes, I'm absolutely ready to do this. You could just feel it running through your bones, right? But you have to be for certain. And the reason why I say you don't have to be absolute is because, hey, no, no one's perfect. You can't always wait to feel that perfect feeling, whatever that is, right? But to have that perfect gut feeling, like this is the time that I have to do something, or whatever the case is. This is the time to commit, or something like that. But you have to be really strongly having that type of feeling, that certainty that runs within you, because I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of an element of doubt in any situation, right? I think it's fair to assume that any human being is probably going to have some question marks in their head going into any type of serious relationship, and they're going to ponder different things. I think that's human nature. So I don't think you're going to have a perfect feeling or perfect, you know, amount of fresh breeze or something like that just blowing over you, that says, "Ooh, yes, you're just ready to be in a committed relationship." but you have to have a certain level of certainty, right? Or maybe you have that absolute feeling. So you got to ask yourself, am I doing this for me? And I don't feel pressured to do it for someone else simply because, this person's been waiting for 2 years and I haven't really said that, we're committed or whatever the case is. Because some people, even though you're with them for a while, they still want to hear you use the words, right? They still want to verbally hear you say it. Even though you've been demonstrating it, they still need to verbally hear you say it. Because until you verbalize it, for some people, they don't believe that you're in a serious relationship, that you're absolutely just committed to them, right? So that some people need it to be verbalized. So that's one of the first things that you've got to consider is, am I ready for this? Am I ready to do this? The other thing coming under that umbrella, right? That there are a couple other things now that fall under the umbrella of you having that level of certainty. The other things that you must consider now are, am I willing to just give up the rest of the life that I've been living, right? There's certain types of things that you may have been doing, because I feel there can only be a certain amount of selfishness if you're in a relationship, if you want to call it that, all right? There can only be a certain amount of selfishness. Selfishness, and perhaps selfishness is not the appropriate word, but a certain amount of, maybe self-caring is a better word, right? So you have to have a certain amount of self-caring when you're in a relationship. But you also have got to be open now to certain types of things when you get into a relationship. So are you ready for that? Because a lot of times some of the things that dissipate would be your privacy, right? So are you ready now to give up certain amounts of privacy, give up certain amounts of time, or depending on, and time could be a factor in a whole lot of different ways as well, right? And be able to make certain types of sacrifices when you get into a serious relationship with someone, because those things now you have to take into consideration, right? It's no longer just you kind of hanging around the person. You've now made this serious commitment that you all are going to be in this relationship, and so now you've got to take that into consideration as well. So that is something that you got to consider. What I have seen a lot is some people will say, well, I am in this relationship with you, but I still want to keep doing these certain things. And those certain things are counterproductive to actually being in a fully committed relationship with someone. So again, it's about communication, and there has to be this discussion. It has to be had. So are you going to keep running out to the club and your partner, the person that you're dating, is uncomfortable with you going out and partying or whatever the case is, that sort of stuff? Or have you had that conversation with the person, and people don't feel insecure in the relationship, to where the other person can go out and do certain types of things or whatever? Like, a lot of times these things are not discussed, they're not talked about, and so when they happen, right, they seem to happen in a vacuum, but actually they don't, because you have seen certain things about me all of the time. They have gone unchecked, and I have seen certain things about you, all this time that we've been talking to each other, and they have gone unchecked. And all that is happening now is I have become more comfortable with you, you have become more comfortable with me, and now we're showing these sides of ourselves even more as we've become more comfortable with each other. And then each person's perhaps getting upset by what the other person is doing. And so these conversations have to be had. So, when you're, as I'm saying, excuse me, when you're getting ready to get into, a certain when you're getting ready to get into these serious types of relationships, it's really important that you have these types of discussions, that you have these conversations, because these are things that could pop up later on and cause real, just real hurt and pain, right? Because they were not discussed above. So, are you doing it for you? That is something that you must. Don't force yourself to do something because you feel like someone else is going to be hurt, because you're going to regret it in the long run, right? And then when you make that decision, you have to also realize you can't keep on doing some of the same things that you were doing, because it could cause real harm and hurt in the relationship. And I use the example of going to the club as one, because I've seen that play out so many times where someone wants to keep going out and partying and doing all this type of stuff, and then the other person's telling him, well, you're in a serious relationship now, so you can't keep going out and doing all this. I mean, look, I'm not saying that you can't do that, right? That you can't keep going out and do it. I'm saying that that is a conversation that you need to have up front. The things a lot of times that you don't think are going to be a problem, those are the things a lot of times that turn out to be huge problems in relationships. And so you have to be able to have those conversations up front, right? So those are things you've got to consider before you get married to someone, before you get engaged, are you doing this for you? And then under that umbrella, are you prepared now to make certain types of changes to foster a continuing growth and development of that relationship? And then are you prepared to have the real discussion, right? To communicate with your partner about certain things so that they don't turn out to hurt and harm the relationship later on, right? Those are conversations that you just must have before you get into a serious relationship. So there's going to be probably a part 2 to this and a part 3, as I've said. In the meantime, leave your comments down below. What are some of those conversations you feel like, that you must have with someone before you become serious with them? And what are some of the things that you must do before you get into a serious relationship with someone, right? And I might turn some of those things into videos as well as we move forward. So don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments. And also, please don't forget to turn on your post notifications, because I post pretty much every single day, right? So you can keep up with the content. And finally, don't forget to share and hit the like button, because it does help the channel grow. And I'm trying to grow the channel, so I'll really appreciate it if you do those 2 things for me. That would really be really be thankful of that. So thank you for taking the time to watch my videos, and until the next time, peace.